Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Girl Log Off podcast. I am your host Katie, and in this episode, I will be discussing the main character energy trend, which you might also know as main character syndrome. This trend is defined as the act of living life with confidence and individuality, as if you are the protagonist of your own story. But we do ask, where does this trend come from? Well, it first started out on TikTok back in the May of 2020. The trend first started with videos featuring people, which were usually young women, posing as main characters, starring in their own metaphorical movies of their lives. They typically featured a female character type that was quirky, introspective, carefree and self-possessed, which you could present through a form of romanticised but authentic self-empowerment. A lot of the content that has been posted online during this time and since tends to follow the typical stereotypes of a chick flick or a rom-com film, such as running in the rain or simply being sat on a train, looking out the window, listening to music, either pretending that they are the only person on that train, or they are in a dramatic part of their movie where they're leaving everything behind and starting a new life. Like, are we just romanticising these things and pretending to be the main character of our own life just to make ourselves feel better? Or is it that it gives us a feeling of importance in the world? A thing that this trend definitely brings to people is self-confidence. This trend could have possibly only come around just to simply boost our own confidence. And yes, that is a very positive effect of this, especially if you have a low self-esteem. It is sometimes referred to as main character syndrome, which has been defined as to denounce actions and behaviours of people accused of attention seeking, egotism, self-importance and things similar to those, as if they treat everyone else in their life as mere supporting characters to their concerns, which can become a very negative effect of this trend, as people can become very self-centred while treating other people as supporting roles in their life. What we don't think of sometimes is that maybe someone with perhaps an incredibly low self-esteem or lack of confidence could see themselves as a supporting role in their own life instead of the main character. So, realistically, there are two ways that you can look at it. Either you, yourself, is the main character, then everyone in your surrounding circle are the supporting roles in your life, or you can see one of your friends or perhaps the rest of your friends as main characters and you are just the supporting role in their lives rather than your own. This can cause low self-esteem as a lot of people may not push themselves to achieve things that they are very much capable of if they wanted to, or maybe even smaller things such as celebrating their birthday. This could cause them to feel unimportant, which is quite sad. And this is where the trend can become very toxic for a lot of people. Don't get me wrong though, it is very positive in many lights, but I feel like these days everything has a downside somewhere. Something that will definitely come up a lot in this series is comparison culture, as in today's society this has become such a normal thing for a lot of people. It is very rare that someone will see something on either their TV or social media and not compare themselves to it. I think this is something that I am very much guilty of. I know for a fine fact I used to be really bad for it in my teenage years, but since growing up, it has definitely decreased a little bit. Yes, I do still compare myself sometimes, but it is nowhere near as bad as it used to be. And I feel like in years to come, I still will be comparing myself. I feel like it's just a nature in everyone these days. And I do worry for the younger generation, as they are incredibly easily influenced these days, whether it is a new skincare product that is popular, jewellery, clothing or whatever. They are instantly going to want to have it when it is something that they aren't necessarily going to need at the stage of life that they are in. With this trend though, I feel like comparison culture is a lot milder when you compare it to other trends. Trends like the morning shed or body image, as I feel like they are bigger issues, especially body image. I feel like this trend is a lot softer compared to the other ones, which can kind of make it a little bit less relevant, but it is still there in the sense of people may start comparing things like who has the more aesthetic life or who is more confident and who embodies main character energy better, which can also lead to negative perceptions of this trend. However, it could also act as an antidote to comparison culture, as it is a trend that is solely focused on the person themselves and not others. I feel as though lots of people take this trend on in many different ways and in many different styles. Some people will tend to embrace this trend before something big and important happens in their life, something that will fit the narrative of their story, which is situations that probably make the most sense for playing the main character. Like, for instance, your wedding day. Things like starting your new job are all big events in your life where playing the main character can come in a positive way, especially if you're feeling a little nervous about it. Maybe some people embrace this trend to get over the initial nerves of a first date because, let's face it, first dates aren't easy. Coming from an anxious person myself, as much as I would love to be a confident and non-socially awkward type, that just simply isn't me. And I don't think many things will ever stop me feeling that way. So maybe I need to embrace this trend on my next first date and see if that makes any difference. Some may feel a burst of main character energy during the final push of a workout routine if they are struggling. They may pretend that all eyes are on them just to get themselves through the workout, which honestly makes so much sense sometimes. Sometimes you have to do that when you feel like giving up. I definitely feel like if you're embracing this trend in small ways like this, it can only be positive, as it's not harming anyone else and it's only directly affecting you, as you are kind of using it as a coping mechanism. However, if you are embracing a trend in every single second of your life, that is where it becomes a bit tedious in the sense that you start almost pushing people away that are close to you, as they may come to you to confide their problems. But because you are so focused on yourself due to this trend, you may not let their issues affect you, which can bring a lack of sympathy in their time of need. From research, I found that these moments of main character energy can stack up to a series of forward-facing behaviours in people referred to as main character syndrome. And depending on how you present yourself through this trend or impact the lives around you, and whether or not you openly disregard the needs of others, your time in the spotlight can either be empowering or disenfranchising. I also found that Dr. Albers has said, when you embrace main character energy, you tend to highlight or reinforce certain aspects of your personality to benefit your story and your place in other people's lives. For example, if you value being funny, you might ramp up your humour in a group setting to play the role of the class clown, or get out those extra laughs and increase your likability. You view yourself through a storytelling lens, like you're on a movie or a TV show, and the spotlight is always on you. Dr. Albers also described that when you're romanticising your problems, you often feel like you have to go through difficult problems because it gives you some sort of character development or growth. Sometimes, with main character syndrome, you might often believe it will all magically work out in a positive way, or everything will have a happy ending the way that movies tend to wrap things up in the end. But this may not always be the case. Which I feel like forcing yourself to go through problems that for a lot of people may happen naturally as a way of life. However, if it is a problem that may not necessarily ever affect you, why would you feel the need to force the problem onto yourself for some sort of development? And in some cases, it might not actually end up being character developing or growth and could lead to more problems. Like, are they trying to relate to other people, or are you doing it just to romanticize a problem so you can talk about it to people and confide in people when realistically you're not actually looking for answers? And in a worst case scenario, the problem that you perhaps put yourself through could become a much bigger issue. Now, let's get into our interviews. First up, Corey Blonde, the podcast host of Girl Math.
I'm Corey Blonde, and I originally started off by vlogging on YouTube, which transitioned into a podcast. And my main reason behind podcasting was to help women feel less alone, just in general life struggles. This can be from mental health to eating to anything, boys, relationships, what have you. I just wanted to create a community because I feel like when I was growing up, I didn't have that person or a big sister to go to, and I just wanted to be like the online big sister, basically.
Do you remember when you first noticed the main character energy trend, and what were your initial thoughts?
Initially, I think I was a bit skeptical because I'm the type of person to just kind of sit on the back seat of things. But as I kept seeing it grow, and like, in the comments of TikTok, everyone be like, this is so main character.
Yeah.
It kind of came like the everyone like calls each other like a diva now.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the diva energy of it's kind of encouraged now where you should back yourself and be confident, and I guess it does kind of tie into romanticizing your life, doesn't it really? But
Yeah.
it's being able to back yourself, which is what I like about it.
Yeah, because I think when I was doing research for both episodes, the main character energy is like a stem from the romanticize your life trend.
Yes, I
But
agree.
I feel like the main character energies came a thing of its own as well.
Mhm.
How would you personally define the trend?
Leaning into your core self through confidence. I feel like in one sentence that's probably how I'd say it.
Why do you think that it has resonated so strongly with young women and Gen Z?
I think because we watch a lot of other people online day to day, we kind of lose ourselves in it. I think we forget who we are because we're so invested in other people. So I think it's why it's quite a good trend because we can then redirect that back into us and into our own lives. And if you see something that's main character energy, it kind of resonates back to you and you're like, I can do that or I do that.
Yeah, at first I was like, well, I don't like this trend, like, why we're trying to be main character, but then I do kind of see why people do it at the same time.
Yeah. I understand it now, but at first I was a bit skeptical.
Because I feel like if you think about it so much, you can make your whole life about it, and then it's like that's when it starts to get a bit.
It can become quite selfish to the point where it could ruin, I guess, maybe friendships.
Do you see this trend as like maybe it's like empowering, or do you think it can be a bit performative sometimes? Like people are like,
Yeah, I think
putting,
it can be very performative. Um, but for the most part, I feel like it does bring the confidence into people because you can kind of channel, I guess you're channeling yourself, but you're also channeling this energy that you might not day to day because it's named something. Do you know what I mean? It's easier to clarify what it could be.
if you're not putting a title on it, you don't know what you're doing, you're just doing it. So with
Yeah,
it having a title, it kind of gives like security.
yeah, agree.
What aspects of main character energy do you think are generally beneficial for self confidence?
Give me an example.
So like people will be like on a train and they're like,
Oh, looking out a window with like
yeah,
their music on.
which ones do you think are like generally beneficial for self confidence?
I'm trying to think of like what the ones I would use because I'm just trying to think of what I struggle with, which is like if I'm networking, for example,
Yeah.
and I'm in a room where I have to talk about what I do, I can't do it because I kind of talk myself down. So I guess in that sense, I am channeling main like character energy by just thinking this is what I do. I mean, I normally channel like someone like Paris Hilton. I know that may be a bit rogue, but I channel someone else in order to be the main character who I already know is a main character. So I kind of embody someone
Yeah, I think I do that
because
as well.
because
I
I
think in
can't.
because I think in group situations, I'm just like, right, I need to talk to these people, and I don't want to talk to these people.
Yeah, I know it's really difficult, especially when you're like forced to kind of talk to people as well.
Obviously, you've said like when you're doing network and events, you channel the energy, but is there any other situations where you channel it as well?
I guess in my content itself, because you have to talk about yourself and show things about yourself that you might not normally do naturally. Like, trying to think what I do that like channels it. I mean, I think music helps like to a massive degree.
Yeah.
Um, like whenever I think I can't go anywhere without headphones in my ears. So headphones in itself help, but
That's another one when I was at the gym. I was like, headphones,
yeah, if I don't
no
have
one's
headphones
around.
or music, it has to be like a certain genre of music or something that I'm like. Like, for instance, like, I don't know why, but rap really gets me in the zone.
I feel like sometimes the Twilight soundtrack does it for me.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Yeah, I
I
can
feel
see
like
that.
it's so like chilled. I'm just like, yay.
Yeah. Or like Euphoria. I feel like
Yeah.
Euphoria soundtracks are good.
Yeah. I
Mm.
remember when I ran last year, I used to like listen to like songs from that. I was like,
Did
yeah.
you? I done that as well. Because I ran a half marathon and I made this playlist. And I think the only thing that got me through, because for my dissertation, I wrote about how motivational speeches can enhance your performance, and it seemed that it did. But yeah, I would always like put myself in that. I guess that's a massive one, like running
Yeah.
and music. But
Yeah, I feel like music plays a big part of it.
oh
Like,
yeah.
I think every TikTok that I've seen on the trend playing some sort of music or the mention of music.
Oh, do you know what does actually Tate McRae? Like if I'm at home alone, I will genuinely pretend I am Tate McRae. That's giving main character energy.
Some say that this trend can lead to self-centeredness and or unrealistic expectations. What is your take on that?
I do think yes, it can lead to self-centeredness, which can ultimately potentially break certain relationships and friendships because it can lead down like decisions of choosing yourself over certain situations, I guess. But everyone advocates to choose yourself, but I don't know if that can be seen as unhealthy at times. But I think for the most part, I don't think it's that toxic. I think out of all the trends online, it's probably one of the healthiest ones.
Yeah. When they say like unrealistic expectations, I'm like, unless you like pretending to be the main character and you're like, oh, I'm gonna end up with this job, like they're acting like it's gonna just fall onto the lap.
Yeah.
I feel like that's when it becomes unrealistic, but like I don't feel like many people do that.
I think it's always good to have unrealistic goals, but it's good to always do something that works towards it.
Yeah.
Because otherwise that is, yeah, unrealistic if you're not doing something that's working towards it.
How do you think that this trend could affect people that maybe feel like they're a supporting character in their own life instead of the main character?
Yeah, I mean it can open doors potentially for those friends.
Yeah, like maybe he's watching like the trend videos make someone to come out the shell.
Yeah. I think when you see someone close to, it's like anything really. If you see someone get a job that isn't, because I come from a small town, so if I see someone do something with themselves, I'm like, oh wait, that's actually possible for me because they've done it.
Yeah.
I feel like that is like a good example of it.
Do you think it maybe encourages like comparison culture, like especially when people try to make themselves look like a main character in line when maybe in real life they're not?
Yeah, I think it. Well, that goes back to it being quite performative, doesn't it? Really.
Yeah.
Um. Yeah, I definitely do think there's a whole argument of how, like, obviously social media, everything you see primarily is not real. Like, a lot of it is fake online.
Yeah.
Um. So I guess yeah, it becomes unhealthy when because it's natural for humans to compare. Like, it's in our nature to compare. So for sure. I mean, I know I do it.
I think it's hard not if you see you're like, oh well, I want to be like them, but
Yeah. I mean, I do it in my industry all the time. Like, I'm always comparing myself to other creators that I don't know have moved out or have done something
yeah,
massive. Like, even just financially, I'm like, how have you done that?
it's just a natural thing to
Mm.
compare to everyone else, even though everyone lives their own individual lives and you shouldn't be doing it, but you know you
I
shouldn't
guess
be
that's
doing it.
why main character trend can be quite good because again it redirects back to you.
What impact do you think this has on young women who are still figuring out what their identity is?
I feel like it can have a heavy influence in a positive way. It can inspire young girls, but I can also see how they could potentially become quite disrespectful because I think they wouldn't understand boundaries at that point, like in school and stuff, like maybe like talking back to a teacher. So I can see how it can negatively affect young girls in that way. But for the most part, I think it is empowering. I think at the end of the day, it's teaching confidence and to back yourself. So,
Like the younger generations now, they're so influenced by social media that it is seeping into real life.
yes.
And
And I've noticed that they're way more confident than I was when I was younger in terms of like not necessarily in a great way.
Yeah.
Like they'll chat back to you. I remember like in my last year of college, I just started to see it, and like these kids would come up to like the sixth formers and be like, "You're right," like just chat to us. I'm like, I'd never do that.
What are small everyday ways listeners could take on this trend without making it forced?
As we said earlier, music influences us a lot. So even if it was an internal main character, like you don't necessarily have to be performative with it, but in your own head, like your imagination can take you anywhere. So I think day to day, the things you can implement is like listening to songs that inspire you, that can like help you think of your future, for example. So I think thinking of your future puts you in a main character place because you're thinking about your future.
Yeah, that's definitely one thing I do because I know sometimes like when I'm writing articles I'll put like soundtracks on from like early 2000s films that were
Yeah.
like the main female lead characters like a journalist. I'm just like, okay. Has your view on the trend changed over time as it has become more popular and more normalised, or has it stayed the same?
I think it's become so normalized to the point where I'm not even thinking of it as a trend anymore.
Yeah.
I think it's more of like everyone's day to day. But especially, I think especially maybe it's coming from my point of view because I'm in the public eye. But I think everyone that's in the public eye has main character syndrome or like it channels it.
I feel like in your industry you probably have to though.
Yeah, because I guess you are talking about yourself and showing things about yourself, which isn't actually normal. Like, I think I overshared way too much that I probably shouldn't, but you know.
Do you think that main character energy is here to stay, or is it going to turn into something new?
Yeah, I don't know, I think it will evolve. I don't know if it will turn into something brand new, but I think it will evolve. I think it has evolved from like everyone calling each other divas. That's the way I see it.
Like I feel like it's so normalized now that I think until like maybe the generation after the one below us becomes teenagers, that might be when it fizzles out.
Yeah. Or they'll probably start something new.
And that is it from Corey. Next, I sent Noelle Mora, who is an influencer who posts whimsical and spiritual type content that aims to motivate its consumers, some questions about the main character energy trend. In those questions, I asked her what main character energy means to her, and she said, "To me, it's feeling completely connected to your soul and body so that you can't unsee the power you hold." And she defines the trend as, "I think collectively as women, we are starting to understand the importance of giving ourselves value without waiting for external approval, especially from men in this patriarchal society." She believes that it is vital to get the best out of life by fully embracing yourself as the main character of your story, and that it is important for every woman to finally be free and able to express herself without fear of being seen. However, she doesn't feel like this trend encourages comparison culture, but explained everyone has a different perception of everything. If someone gets triggered by another person living a main character life, I think it just reflects their own insecurities. She feels as though this trend allows you a feeling of being free to express yourself, and in that it helps you become more confident and turn more open to the world around you. I also asked her if she thinks this trend affects people's mental health, especially in young people. Her response was, "I hope it can offer a different perspective for anyone who struggles with confidence." That is all she had to say for this trend. Next, I spoke to a general social media user, Ruby Morgan, who defines this trend as a positive thing where you attract attention from others like you. Could look at someone and say, she is giving main character energy just by looking at her. She thinks that TikTok and Instagram are the main platforms where people post this content, and a lot of influencers give main character energy as a lot of followers try to be like them, which I feel like is similar to what I discussed with Corey, as she said that she feels like she has to embody this because of her role. Ruby sees the content posted on this trend as motivating but can also be quite pressuring, as I feel society has expectations for everyone to be perfect and always look and feel their best, but can also inspire people to feel better about themselves. Differently to Noelle, but similar to Corey and myself, Ruby thought that this trend does encourage comparison culture, and as she described it, you feel you need to make your life better as it doesn't compare to other people's, or it can set unrealistic expectations for people's lives. she also explained that trends can create a sense of community between people. It can encourage more self-confidence and self-expression. I also asked Ruby if she thinks that this trend can create unrealistic expectations, and she replied, yes, as it can make people who don't live a lifestyle that is portrayed online as main character, which can make them believe they aren't as good as others and feel pressured into having a lifestyle or becoming that sort of person. And that's all for this episode. Tune in to the next episode where I talk about the romanticise your life trend. Bye!